Ugh. Excuse the bed, the couch. I just got up and get a chance to clean. I had something on my mind. That's why I went straight to my computer. Sorry to tell you all, but at least in the mainstream world, music is dead. It's been dead for about maybe 10 years. 15 at most. Probably 10 years, you know, when we hit 2000 or 2002. And that's because music is not a highly revered art form anymore. It's not something that you go see and hear and listen to intellectually and connect with an artist or connect to the notes being played, understanding it on a deeper level. You can't do that with mainstream music because there is no deep level, because it's not an art form anymore. And many of the younger ones watching this may disagree with me, but it's most likely, and with all due respect, due to your ignorance, because you just don't know better. You know what? I'm only 22 at the making of this video, so I'm not that old either. So what the fuck do I know? Well, I'm a bit older than the younger generation that really listen to just the stuff from today, like let's say post 2005. And you know, like, I grew up with some 90s music. Even the pop music of the 90s was definitely much better orchestrated, written, catchier. It was pop music, no doubt, but it wasn't sell-out, lowest common denominator pop music. At least not in the same sense. Or even if it was, musically, it was much better. Real instrumentation, you know, real arrangement of voices, of instruments, of melodies, you know, of parts. You don't have that today. And if you do, they're highly formulated, and they're there just because we need another part. You see, we don't have any pop painters. And throughout history, we didn't really have any pop painters. Leonardo da Vinci wasn't a pop painter. Okay, he was a painter among many, many other things. We don't really have pop writers. Maybe more pop writers than we do pop painters, but we definitely don't have more pop writers than we have pop musicians and artists. And when you start commercializing music like you do today, when you start creating pop stars, you lose the authenticity of music as an art form because there's just too many. I mean, the only way people like Lady Gaga and Pitbull and all these people, Lil Wayne, okay, Khalifa, the only way they'll be remembered, because they will, but the only way they'll be remembered is because of our digital archives, our digital technology. And, you know, 100 years from now, 200, 300 years from now, we'll be able to go back in the archives and say, hey, cool, you know, this was an artist from 2005, from 2010, from 2012. So we'll have them archived. But do you really think people, except for a select few, for historical purposes, will be listening to Katy Perry 300 years from now? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it because this type of music is not meant to echo through the ages. They don't say anything in their music. There's no substance. What does Katy Perry talk about? How a teenage dream? Come on, that's baby Lala music. Really, I mean, that's the lowest common denominator. That doesn't challenge anything. That doesn't talk about anything. It's just words to a simple beat for a mass audience to consume. That's it. Now, granted, there are two ways I look at music in judging them. One is as follows. Each genre, including pop music today, is independent of every other genre of music. And so, in and of itself, it is a genuine genre that caters to certain emotions and actions and feelings, like, you know, let's say love, hate, or dancing, stuff like that, or for the club, or for anything. Yes, granted, that's fine, that's okay. It's a genuine genre of music, and I respect it in that sense. However, when I make a hierarchy based on different criteria, it starts to change. When you want to base all music, of all genres, on the same playing level, then you have to base it on originality, technicality, substance, professionalism, execution, and in this regard, today's music fails horribly. Let's go back to the classical era. We're going to go with Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, those guys, Haydn, later on Tchaikovsky, And why do you think they've lasted this long? Mozart didn't put out CDs. Okay, back in the mid-18th century, if you wanted to listen to music, you either had to play yourself live in your room, or you had to wait for a concert. And there were no pop artists of the day. The only artists there were, musical artists, were fucking genius artists. Okay? Because back in that day, we didn't have the wonders of technology to have any person sit behind a computer, highly compress and tune something up and copy, paste, and repeat. That you had no choice but to be either a fucking genius who got worldwide fame because of his or her excellent, beautifully written, beautifully executed music, or you didn't make music. Okay, you see, you understand? Understand? And getting back to pop painters, okay, we could tell, you know, which painters are really good today and back in the day because there were a select few. You know, there were a select few. There weren't had during Leonardo da Vinci's time, the aristocracy was constantly funding random people. You know what? We're gonna make you into a painter. Just draw a few squares. Yeah, that'll be great, and we'll convince the audience through our media that these squares, that's the shit. That's art. Okay, and we had millions of people's squares. Why don't we do triangles now? Let's just draw some circles. Yeah. But it's all the same shit. It's bullshit. Okay, Da Vinci would be no one. Da Vinci would be no one. Yes, maybe his work would surpass all the others because he was a genius as well. But what my point is, in that sea of garbage, it's really hard to sort out the good stuff unless you critically think about it. But most of the mass audience today that listens to music, I don't blame them. They're like 15, they're 16 years old, some of them are 12. What the fuck do they know about music? All they know about music is what they hear on MTV and on the radio. So they're not exposed to music as it used to be, as a genuine art form. Let's remember this, okay? Chancellors and monarchs used to have their own composer. That is equivalent to Obama having his own composer. Do you understand what I'm saying? Music was highly intellectual and highly revered back in the day because people, when they went to go listen to music, didn't take it for granted because there were no record players, there were no MP3 players. When they would go, they would sit and they would listen to the notes playing and the emotions it would evoke. Even though you think that today's music evokes emotion, only on a very face value level. But as I said, there's no substance because all the lyrics are interchangeable and the artists themselves don't even write the lyrics. And it's highly formulated and the producers are telling them what to say and how to sing it, and then the record labels, you know, have to pump out however many albums and concerts per year, so they have to just write quickly, and it's a business. It's a product. Katy Perry is a product. Lady Gaga is a product. And even though she has the appearance of seeming original, she is not. She is not. Maybe in the most temporary of ways, in the most transient and ephemeral of ways, fleeting. She'll be gone as fast as she came. And why? Is it because she sucks? Not particularly. I don't personally like her music, but the reason is not because she sucks. It's because there's too many of her. There's too many of her. There's not, and so when the next one comes, okay, when the next product comes, Lady Gaga's long gone. Okay, there is no other Mozart. There is no other Beethoven. There is no other Bach. There is no other Leonardo da Vinci. There's no others of these people. And again, when they wrote their music, Mozart and the others wrote their music note per note on paper. All the instrumentation of the entire orchestra, note by note. They listened. They would play. They would play. They would write it down. Okay? And because they were able to actually write and read music, they were able to come up with these complex melodies, complex chord progressions. I mean, do you even think in pop music they change time signature? They change key? They have literally about like 20 parts in a minute and a half, because classical music has that. It's incredibly complex music. So classical music is one thing. That's a bit too remote to kind of compare, so I'll give you that. Alright, let's just take 20th century music. Let's say rock and roll. Well, what about Jim Morrison? Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, Roger Waters, all these guys? Lou Reed? Tell me, did they all sound like each other? Did all the bands, did the Doors sound like Pink Floyd? Did Pink Floyd sound like the Beatles? Did the Beatles sound like Led Zeppelin? They came out all at about approximately the same time, between the 60s and the 70s. They didn't. Okay, the record labels, as well as the bands themselves, said, fuck that, we're different. We make our own music. And again, even if you listen to the music back in the 60s and 70s, it is nowhere near as complex as the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries in classical music, but there are still beautiful melodic changes, key changes, different harmonic parts, beautiful instrumentation. What happened? What happened to that? Let's go even closer to now. Let's go to modern, or rather current, 90s electronic music. Okay, because, you know, you say, well, what about the instrumentation? Why is it all gone? Maybe it's technology. Well, no, that's not the case. Because if we listen to people like Massive Attack, or The Orb, from the 90s, that's pure electronic music. But the point is not what technology you use. The point is not giving a crap about what other people are going to think and making music because it is art, because you love to make music, because it is the physical embodiment of your consciousness. That is music, that is art, and that does not exist today, so there is no real emotional connection to the artist, to the music playing, even though you think it's not. Because I'll tell you this, I've been listening to The Orb since the 90s, and I'll listen to them till the day I die. Okay? And I'll be listening to Mozart forever. Right? I'll be listening to all these bands forever that have genuine music because I connect to them. Okay, for these young kids, the next guy is going to come out, and then the next girl, and the next guy, and then it's going to go and go, and there's no time for connection because there was no substance there to begin with. So how should I conclude this? As I said in my earlier video, my first one, today's music is shit. Unfortunately, it's garbage. And I just gave you the reasons why it's garbage. There's too many of them. They don't write their own music. It's a corporate machine. It's not considered art anymore. And it's for the mass audience that, unfortunately, doesn't know shit about music. So how do you combat this? Keep an open mind. Don't feel bad if you're at a party dancing to Katy Perry. That's what she's for. Okay, that's what all this music's for. Okay, don't feel bad if you're smoking weed while listening to Khalifa. That's what his music is for. Although I'd rather be listening to older hip-hop stuff. Don't feel bad, but just keep in mind that today's mainstream music is not intellectual. Okay, it's not for deeply connecting with. And that music still exists today, but you have to find it. You have to educate yourself, and you have to find it. And if you are a real musician out there, if you're studying jazz, if you're studying classical, and you're playing, you know what I'm talking about. Because you listen to the music on the radio sometimes, you hear it, and I'm positive you say, this stuff sucks. At least 95% of it. Have a good day.